I saw a sign. Not an exit. It was on a door. I thought that would be a very useful sign to have. I would put it on our fireplace so that the cats would know not to go up the chimney. I'd put it on the fridge to stop my children trying to leave home that way. I would put it on the toilet bowl to stop the goldfish from trying to find freedom through there. Chapter 1. The Middle of the Night. It was the middle of the night. If you've read what this chapter is called, The Middle of the Night, you already know that it was the middle of the night. If you didn't read what this chapter is called, you would have missed that it was called The Middle of the Night. No worries, because now you do know that it was the middle of the night. Malcolm was fast asleep. He was fast asleep. Then, all of a sudden, he wasn't fast asleep. He was awake, and it was still the middle of the night. No one likes waking up in the middle of the night, apart from owls. A note on owls. They wake up, fly about, catch mice, eat them, and then, a few hours later, do a sicky thing where bits of the mice they've eaten come back up again. I'm not telling you this for any old reason. I'm telling you this because this is what Malcolm was lying awake thinking about. He was asking himself, why do owls sick up bits of mice? He lay on his back, staring at the ceiling, and he remembered the words owl pellets from a book he read called Great Owl Pellets of the World. Imagine, he thought, if instead of that time when I was on TV and the man asked me what was the capital of Italy and I said Ponky, what if instead of that the man had asked me what is the proper name for owl sick? I could have said owl pellets and I would have been right. If only. Just then, the dog barked. Wow, thought Malcolm, still lying on his back in bed. That is strange. I told him not to bark. I remember quite clearly saying to him, don't bark tonight. And there he is, barking. Then Malcolm heard a dragging sound. Something was being dragged. The dog barked again, and following that, someone or something said, shh. Then came the dragging sound again. All that interesting stuff about owl pellets just flew out of Malcolm's mind. You probably don't want to think about owl pellets flying out of someone's mind, so if you don't want to, just stop thinking about it. If Malcolm had been thinking about weasels, they would have flown out of his mind too. Oh, there are some weasels. Weasel 1. Hello again. Weasel 2. Looks like we're back again with our weasel words. Weasel 1. No, we don't say weasel words, remember? Weasel 2. Don't we? Weasel 1. No, we're weasels. It's humans who say weasel words, not weasels. We don't actually talk. Except when people like Neil Layton do drawings of us talking. Weasel 2. Oh, yes, I remember. We don't talk. By the way, what are weasel words? Weasel 1. That was explained in another Uncle Gob book. If you really want to know, just look it up in there. Weasel 2. All right. No need to get ratty about it. Weasel 1. I'm not being ratty. I'm not a rat. I'm a weasel. Weasel 2. Me too. I'm a weasel. Weasel 1. I know you're a weasel. You don't need to tell me you're a weasel. Then came the dragging sound again. Malcolm waited for the dog to bark. The dog didn't bark that time. Aha, thought Malcolm. Me telling the dog not to bark has worked. The dog did, after all, listen carefully. He's remembered what I said, and he's now doing what I told him to do, which is not bark. Then came the dragging sound again. Malcolm decided that the dragging sound was scary. Malcolm remembered a horror story he read once about a giant cucumber. It wasn't a living cucumber, it was a dead cucumber that had become a ghost. And in the middle of the night, the ghost cucumber couldn't sleep. So it walked about the house, dragging something. I think it was chains, Malcolm thought. But then why would a ghost cucumber be dragging chains? If there was a ghost cucumber dragging something, surely it would be something that cucumbers hang out with, like a bit of lettuce. The sound that Malcolm could hear downstairs was not the sound of a ghost cucumber dragging a bit of lettuce. It sounded more like a chair being dragged. Yes, the chair, the little funny wood and metal chair he had had ever since he was little and funny. When Malcolm was 3, he remembered he went to a place every day called Start. But then it closed. When it closed, they said people could take a chair home instead. Malcolm found his chair, took it home, and he had kept it ever since. The dog liked sleeping on it, or under it. Here is an important message. If you wake up in the middle of the night and you start to hear things, sometimes you say things to yourself that are not totally sensible. That's because you might be half asleep. End of important message. The next thing that Malcolm thought was most definitely not a sensible thing to think. What he said to himself was, "Oh, my chair is going out for a walk." Then there was a crash and a voice said, "Oh, blue, blue, blue." Malcolm knew immediately who said, "Oh, blue, blue, blue." It was Uncle Gob. Uncle Gob was the only person he knew who said, "Oh, blue," when something bad happened. But why was Uncle Gob dragging his chair around in the middle of the night? Malcolm got up, went downstairs, switched on the light and looked at Uncle Gob. Uncle Gob was definitely dragging the chair. "Aha," said Malcolm to himself, "Uncle Gob's up to something again. He's already tried to get rid of me and my bestest friend Crackersnacker by shoving us in the dread shed. He's already tried to get rid of me and my bestest friend Crackersnacker in America, but we defeated him. I know I can defeat him again, so this time I'll find out what his plan is straight away. No hanging about." Malcolm took a step forward towards Uncle Gob and said, "Uncle Gob, why are you moving my chair in the middle of the night?" Uncle Gob, who at the very exact moment that Malcolm switched on the light was moving Malcolm's chair in the middle of the night, said, "I'm not moving your chair in the middle of the night." Malcolm's teacher, Mr. Keenley, once said something really interesting about things like this. He said that when someone says something that everyone knows is not true, it's because there's something else altogether that they don't want you to know. So Malcolm thought this through. If Mr. Keenley is right, then Uncle Gob isn't really trying to tell me that he's not moving my chair in the middle of the night. He knows he's moving my chair in the middle of the night. He knows I know he's moving my chair in the middle of the night. There's something else altogether that he doesn't want me to know about. This is what my greatest, bestest, most brilliantest friend Crackersnacker would call the something else thing.